Well, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Waheedah Shabazz-El from PWN-USA. I just want to thank everybody for joining us this evening for this post-summit review and how we're going to be moving forward for 2017. Right now, you all are on mute, but at some point you'll be asked to unmute yourselves if you have questions, but you can always use the chat box to enter your questions and greet each other and communicate with each other. I am also accompanied today here by Cammie Dodson, PWN's HIV Reproductive Justice Fellow. Cammie will be helping me do this webinar today. I am the Regional Organizing Director for PWN. And we are going to go ahead and get started. And I want to thank everybody who came on. And I need to ask, can you guys hear me though before I get started, before I start giving you content? Could somebody please tell me in the chat box? Thank you, Alicia. Okay, great. I'm glad you guys can hear me. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as you can see, our big sign, we were up in lights at the summit. For those of you who didn't get a chance to go, we stayed at the Ramada Inn in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and up on the marquee was our announcement that we were there for our Speak Up Summit 2016, and that's what you see on the initial slide. So overview, what we're going to review, and I'm very happy all of you are here because we're closing out the end of the year, bringing in 2017. So we wanted to make sure that everybody was invited to this call, whether you were in a regional chapter or whether you weren't, whether you are an officer of a chapter or whether you are a member. We want everybody to know what our plans are, how you close out the end of the year, how you begin the beginning of the year, so that we can all pitch in and make sure that our chapters are in line so that we can move forward. Everybody knows me. I always say, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So here we are planning for the end of 2016, going into 2017. So we're going to do some follow-up from the pre-institute. For those of you who were there, for those of you who weren't there, you're going to learn some of the topics that we covered. We're going to translate how the pre-institute commitments, what they look like coming home, because I know that there was a lot and some of it was lost in the translation coming home. We're going to go back and review what our plan was for 2016, and then we're going to go forward and review what our campaign commitments are for 2017. Many of you stood up in the closing session and announced those campaigns on behalf of your chapters. We're going to introduce some templates for you to use to help you with your reporting, for the end-of-year reporting and for your plans for next year. We're going to introduce the idea of expansion to statewide chapters for those regions who are local or regional and not statewide. And again, we're going to introduce our 2017 plan, Regional Organizing 2017 plan, as a roadmap, just a visual of where we want to go in 2017. Okay, Olga, I'm glad you could join us. I see you said you just got back from your aunt's funeral. I'm very sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that you shared that with us. So we're going to go to the next slide. And so here's a picture of a lot of the participants in the pre-institute at the summit. We had about 44 women. We had to cap it at 50. We couldn't have more than, I wish we could have invited everybody to the pre-institute, but we just couldn't do it. But we were able to invite 50 women from different chapters to join us in the pre-institute. Just give me a second here. Okay. And so what we covered during our pre-institute, it was supposed to have been a 5-hour institute. It turned into a 7-hour institute. We were very excited, and our momentum was going. We kept going. So we talked about building community. And I can't stress enough what we mean when we say building community. For those of you who are in chapters or not, we have to be mentors of each other, not gatekeepers. Our job is to let everybody in. Our job is to push everybody up. Our job is to support everybody's growth as we grow into leadership, because we're all leaders. Everyone here is a leader in their own right. So we don't want to be. So we did a lot of time on building community and reminding each other that we don't need to be gatekeepers. Our job is not to keep folks out, not to hold them down, not to box them out, but to let them in and allow them to grow in this new culture that we're building in PWN. So we did a lot of stuff around building community. We also reviewed our welcome letters while we were there. For every chapter that's affiliated, you all received a welcome letter. You may not, and let me say this. I realize that some of you may not be the co-chairs who signed on to the welcoming letters. That's why we let everybody see what the welcoming letter looked like. We let everybody see what the original co-chair may have signed on to, that they signed on to properly respond to staff. They signed on to launch at least one campaign a year. They signed on to presenting printed materials. If you have anything that you want to print using our logos, we need to have those approved by our communications director. So those are some things that were pointed out in the welcome letter, and many of you may have never seen one because we have changed some chapters have changed leadership over the last couple of years. We wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to see that and say that, what everybody signed on to is just as valid today as it was when they were signed on to a couple of years ago. We reviewed our plan for 2016, which included a webinar series, which included campaign development, and then we started doing commitments for our campaigns in the present and what we would work on and what each chapter would work on as a campaign commitment. After you got home, I know that a lot of that may have gotten lost. We asked you to review your campaign commitments with your whole chapter because the whole chapter was not invited to the pre-institute. So we didn't want to have a couple of people making decisions for the entire chapter. So whatever you committed to in the institute, we asked you that you would go back home, that you would present this to the entire chapter, and you all would get a consensus that, yeah, this is something we all want to work on together. That was one of the things everyone was asked to do when you got home. Begin to think about hosting meetings that were going to be specifically to review your campaign goals. Campaigning, if you plan to fail, you fail to plan. So we have to put aside time for planning strategically if we really want to change or fix some of these broken systems that have caused us so much disruption and that set up barriers in our lives. Ask that the SCAT reps begin to develop messages for the campaign. It's hard to have in fact, it's impossible to have a successful campaign if everybody's saying whatever they feel that they want to say, but that you all come together. The SCAT rep helps to develop the message. You all come together, and you always use that message. That message goes on the T-shirt. It goes on the flyer. It goes on the newsletter. It's talked about at the dinner table, but you then begin to develop your message and what you're going to be asking for in your campaign. So these are some of the things that we asked you all to review when you got home. And one of the reasons that we're having this webinar is to refresh your memory and to bring everybody on board, to let everybody know where we are in this space and time. So we talked about internal education. Wherever your campaign issue is, you have to make sure that everybody in the chapter understands the issue. If it's HIV criminalization, we have to get those statutes out for your state because they're different. If it's women-centered care, we have to teach our women in our chapters what is women-centered care. So internal education has to happen. And also, we know that we don't live in a vacuum. We also would ask that you would gain partners to collaborate with you on whatever campaign that you selected. I'm sorry that took a whole lot. So I'm going to move on. I think I'm going to move on. Okay, yeah, great. So for many of you who've been around for at least a year, you may have seen this visual before. And I also made a visual for 2017. But back in December of 2015, before we went off on the holiday, on our holidays, I presented this visual of what regional organizing would be doing in 2017. I said we would do skills building webinars. We would do webinars on strategy charts and building partnerships, messaging for our campaigns. We would ask the co-chairs to review these webinars at the local level. You could print them out, give them handouts, or you could go back and listen to the recording. And we knew that we would all be at the summit together. And our plan was that when we all got to the summit, we had 11 chapters. We would have 11 campaigns up and ready to go. And let me say this, you guys did really good. We don't always meet our goals, but what's important is that we make goals for ourselves. So this was the goals we set out for 2016. And I want to congratulate everybody here because we made enormous progress in 2016. We had the Mod Squad, PWN Colorado, changed legislation around HIV criminalization. We all met up at AIDS Watch. We lobbied. We had PWN Philly. They got a POP grant. PWN South Carolina applied for a POP grant. They got that. PWN Philly did some work around HIV criminalization and collaborated on a white paper report. PWN-USA partnered with Zero Project and put on the Academy, HIV is Not a Crime Academy. Yeah, we did a whole lot in 2016. So I have to congratulate everybody for every step you made. There may be some progress that you made in your regions that I don't even know about. But just to say that we made enormous progress in 2016. 2016 was a win. So we want to continue to plan together and not just. And I know I always mentor the co-chairs, but I want to have an opportunity to mentor everybody and let everybody know how we're going to close down, how we're going to end 2016, and what we want to look for as we go forward in 2017. And I appreciate all the good work you've done. We've actually, like Dejan always says, we've actually moved the needle in 2016. And now we know that we're facing a new presidential administration. We're going to have to keep pushing to keep moving that needle in the right direction. So Cammie's going to do this. I know this looks kind of complicated, but Cammie's going to make it really simple for you all. And I'm going to, Cammie, are you on?
I am. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just going to say yes.
Oh. Great, thank you. Hi everyone, so this is Cammie. I had the pleasure of meeting some of you at the very long but very productive Pre-Institute at the summit. And I know I met some of you over email since then in webinars. So thanks, Waheedah, for highlighting all the fantastic work that happened in 2016. And I think it's really important to keep that in mind as we move into, what might be a very challenging new period of time, but knowing that you all have the power, you have the skills and the leadership, and you're just going to be building on all the fantastic work you've done so far. So what we have on the screen are the campaign commitments that the regional chapters have made for 2017. And so there's a variety of issues that the chapters want to be addressing this year that have to do with PWN's different policy areas. And there's some overlap within some of the different regions. They're doing similar work. So I think that's great because that's an opportunity for collaboration and inspiration as chapters kind of look to what the other ones have done and can learn from each other. So Colorado is going to be focusing on women-centered care and thinking specifically about informed medical care for women living with HIV. The New York chapter wants to talk about ending violence against women living with HIV, and within that specifically addressing how cases of interpersonal violence are handled within the courts. Michigan is also thinking about women-centered care. They're thinking more about the angle of educating care providers on the need for women-centered care. The Philly chapter is wanting to continue work on HIV criminalization and is specifically thinking about how state laws can be modernized based on actual science. The Greater Houston area is going to be working on ending violence against women living with HIV, and they're also talking about incorporating models for women-centered care for agencies that work with women living with HIV. San Diego is committed to working on ending violence against women living with HIV, and thinking mostly about, or focusing most on education for law enforcement. I'm sorry, there's some sirens in the background here. I'll let them pass. But moving on, Louisiana also committed to women-centered care and looking at clinic settings, making sure they're comfortable and welcoming to women living with HIV. Ohio wants to work on HIV criminalization and ending HIV criminal laws in Ohio. Georgia is another chapter that's committed to working on women-centered care and has highlighted transportation and care as an issue they want to focus on. South Carolina will be working on HIV criminalization, and we'll be doing a training of the trainers for people to act as ambassadors to educate people about HIV criminalization. The Bay Area, we still need to hear back about their commitment from the pre-institute, but I'm sure that there's some good ideas in the works there. And then Virgin Islands is not a regional chapter, but they committed to submitting an application to become a PWN chapter. So there's a lot of exciting work on the table for 2017, and ending violence against women, securing women-centered care, HIV criminalization. Those are the main priorities that you all have said you want to focus on. And so you can really build off of each other's work and the energy that's going to be happening all over the country as you move forward with these. And I also wanted to highlight that even though these are the commitments that came out of the pre-institute, not everyone is at the pre-institute, like Waheedah said, these campaigns really are meant to be owned by everyone in the chapter. So, this is just the starting place, and as a chapter, you can work together to really think about what this means for, you and your local area and how it really relates to what you want to do and what you want to contribute. So, getting more into the nitty-gritty, and also if we missed anything on what your chapter is committing to for 2017, feel free to let us know in the chat box or at the end. These are, sort of the big picture areas that we've heard that the chapters want to be committed to. So it's a very sort of quick overview. So after the pre-institute, Waheedah sent out some more detailed instructions about how to actually turn those big picture campaign commitments into action. And so, as she mentioned, as the first bullet point says, that there has to be consensus among the members that this is the issue that people want to work on, because obviously a campaign with such an important goal, something like women-centered care, isn't something that one or two people can do on their own. It's really going to require the collaborative energy and effort of everyone in the chapter, and maybe even bringing in more people. So the instructions that Waheedah sent out are specifically focused on 30 and 60-day goals. So she wanted everyone in the chapter to think about what's happened to this commitment in the time since we had the summit. What's the timeline for how these assignments are going to break down? And then who's been assigned to these individual tasks that are required to make something like a big campaign goal happen. So, once again, it can't be one or two people who are doing everything. It has to be a collaborative process. Another thing we wanted to make sure that they all are thinking about is how does this issue fit into our values? And so this is, something that can help in the decision-making process, because I know that you all are very busy. You all have tons of different things that you do in your life. So, you have to be strategic in how you apply your efforts. And that's one way you can sort of narrow in on what is the priority for your chapter, thinking about the PWN values and how that informs, what is the most important thing for you to do. And then another suggestion or another step that Waheedah has included in the instructions is to have the campaign that you're working on the agenda. It should be on the agenda of every chapter meeting. So it's going to be something that you're going to have time to talk about. So co-chairs should be moving towards both having the campaign on the general agenda, but also setting up dedicated meetings so that campaign planning can happen, in really concentrated, strategic ways. Scat reps should be working on media and community messaging. Policy reps should be analyzing how it fits into the long-term goals, what the policy opportunities are. And so there's lots of different things that are involved, and there's lots of different, I think, opportunities for people to be involved. So, for example, like, if you're not the scat rep, doesn't mean that you can't be involved in the media and messaging, right? But those representatives are sort of like the people who, who are like the delegated person for that issue, but they should be bringing in everyone who has skills and wants to be involved on these different issues. So it's not like one person can only do each of these things, but, sort of having point people to lead these different efforts, but knowing that everyone has a role to contribute to all these different areas. So that kind of brings us to the bigger picture questions of, how do you turn these campaigns into the goal you're trying to realize, and beyond the 30 or 60 days you might have already planned for. So, building community. So it's not just about who's assigned to do what, but really trusting each other, bringing each other in, making sure everyone's included, making sure everyone knows what's going on. And just thinking about things more on a chapter level. So, for example, getting together to get on webinars. If someone can't get on the webinar, having it be someone's role to report back to the other folks. Having different people volunteering to take notes. Basically just, creating space for everyone to feel like they can contribute. And then also taking advantage of the training opportunities. So this is somewhere, a place where, you can really take advantage of the support of PWN staff. So reaching out to me or Anita for policy support, coming on the policy calls, reaching out to Jenny for communication support, and then being involved in webinars. So again, like I said, I know you all are very busy with many commitments, and so to really focus your energy and harness all the different skills and capacities within the chapter membership. It's really important to be involved in the trainings and take advantage of the webinars. You can be as strategic and as focused as possible. And then also, just sort of a big picture thing, like I said, like I've been saying, I know you all are very involved in lots of different things, but thinking about, I'm sure as many of you have been thinking about the new challenging environment we're going to be in. These priorities are more important than ever. And, a lot of the things that you all are committed to doing, for example, women-centered care, that requires the voice of women living with HIV to be the ones advocating for what it needs to look like and what you want. So we would just encourage you to really think about making this advocacy a priority, doing what you can to bring each other in, and know that we all have to do this. We're all in it together, and we're going to support each other, but it's something that, it's not we have to be serious, and we have to really commit ourselves, especially in the new challenging environment that we're in. So that's kind of big picture considerations that we're thinking about with these campaign commitments, because they're big goals, but you all have made change, and you're going to be the ones to make these changes now. So to kind of focus your planning, Waheedah is going to talk more about what we're actually looking for in terms of putting this stuff down on paper and really making a plan. So I'll just turn it back over to you, Waheedah.
Great. Thank you, Cammie. Great. So I'd just like to hear in the chat box, was that a good refresher for you all? Because I know, and for some people who may not have been in the Institute, maybe you didn't know how much work we got done, but we had fun, but we actually got a lot of work done as well. And so I want to keep talking about work plans, because it's going to be very important that we get things out of our heads, get them on paper, and that's a sustainable model for all of our chapters. If you have a person that's really smart and really strategic, but you can't get them to put their ideas down on paper, it's hard for you to follow them, particularly if they're not in the room. So this makes when you put things on paper, it makes the playing field level. So we're going to encourage you all to make a work plan for 2017. Now, we do this in PWN all the time. That's why I was able to do that big illustration about what we were going to do in 2016. I did that back in 2015 because I made a plan for a year out. We're going to start asking our chapters, request that you think about submitting a work plan for 2017. So we have a new presidential administration. They're developing their work plan for 2017, and we ought to be developing our work plan for 2017 as well, right? And not just the co-chairs make the plan, but this is something the whole entire chapter can work on. And I'm going to ask you all to work on this for the rest of the year. You may have 2 or 3 or 4 meetings the rest of the year. All those meetings should be dedicated to getting together what you're going to work on in 2017. You already know you're going to work on your campaign. That's a given. That's one thing. What else do you want to see your chapter do in 2017? Okay, so Antoinette is saying that they already have 2 events regarding intimate partner violence in the Bronx and one in New York City. Awesome. So you already have stuff to put on your report, on your work plan for what you're going to be doing in 2017. And once you plan the work, then you work the plan. And so this is going to be done in 4 separate parts. And so this is how we're going to ask you to do it. And whatever you see here, we'll send you a template so that you can all do it as a group. But we're hoping that this gets done as a group. And again, the whole chapter worked on the plan, not just the scat rep, not just the co-chairs, but when you all have your meetings, whether they're face to face, whether they're conference calls for the next meetings up until the end of the year, this is what needs to be on the agenda. Excuse me. We have to bring in the new year, and we have to close out the old year. I hope that makes sense, because that's what people do in business. They close out the current year, and they start making plans for the next year. And this is the kind of time that we want our regions to be on. So this may be a little small, but like I told you, this work plan is going to be in 4 sections. The first section we want you to talk about is infrastructure, and this will be sent to you in a Word doc. The first question will say to you, in 2017, how many new members will be added to your chapter? You all decide. If you have 6 people in your chapter, if everybody brings in 1 new member, then you can say, well, we're going to have at least 6 members by the end of the year, because everybody's going to commit to bringing 1 in, right? That way, it's not just the co-chair making the plan, but everybody's making the plans. Everybody will be sent this template so that you all can have your meetings throughout the 3 or 4 meetings before the end of the year. This is what we want you to talk about, your infrastructure. How are you going to build your infrastructure? Here's another question. I'm not going to go through every question, but here's another question. Georgia is going to be working on their proclamation for 2017. Absolutely. And you're going to put that in your plan, Cammie. That's going to be a part of your plan for 2017. Here's another question you all ask each other. What are the chapter's plans to strengthen leadership within the chapter? Are you going to elect new officials this year? Are you training your current officials? Those sort of things. How are you going to build and strengthen? How are you going to strengthen the people who are already leaders? How are you going to bring new leadership in, allow other people to get an opportunity to lead the chapter? What's the chapter's plan to diversify the representation within your leadership? Is everybody in your chapter who are leaders, are they all women like me, over 50? Is there room for young women? Do you have women? If you have trans women in your chapter, or if you have women who are English is not their first language, how are you going to diversify their leadership? Right. So these are questions that we want you to ask. This is what you call infrastructure questions. That's the first section. Here's the second section. Advocacy and policy. Here's where you're going to put. This is where you're going to put your campaign. So your campaign's going to go here, because that's under advocacy and policy, right? What campaign will the chapter lead this year, right? What's the goal of the current campaign? Who's going to be the target for your campaign? How many partners are you going to need, right? Will this give you leverage in your chapter? What are some of the key dates? What are some of the key dates that you have to remember to make sure, like, are you going to hook your campaign on to National Women and Girls Day? Are you going to hook your campaign on to Black HIV Awareness Day? Are you going to hook your campaign on to Islanders HIV Awareness Day, Young People's HIV Awareness Day? So these are some dates to put up so you can know that you can push your campaign along with some of the other dates that are also coming up. So this is your policy and advocacy section. What support will you need from PWN staff to conduct this campaign? Again, you don't have to do this by yourself. We're always here to help you. So we're just trying to give you a structure. If we get this from you, we'll know how to help you. We'll know what your plans are. And our help for the chapters can be more focused instead of Waheedah telling you guys, this is what Waheedah wants you to do. I want you all to tell us this year what you're planning on doing next year. And which policy planning groups will your chapter gain a seat in 2017? Is anybody going to be on the Ryan White Council? Is anybody going to be on the PACHA? Anybody plan on coming on PACHA this year, the President's Advisory Council for HIV and AIDS? Right? So these are the sort of things, the kind of questions that you all have to answer as a group. That's Section 2. Section 3, let's talk about partnerships and collaborations. We don't live in a vacuum. We don't live on an island. We live in a world with other people. We want our chapters to support other groups, even if they're not working on HIV, because at some point there is the intersection between HIV and wherever, if they're working on housing, that's the intersection between HIV. That housing is prevention, housing is care, housing is treatment. Right? So who are the highest priority partners the chapter needs to work with? Start thinking about that in 2017. What groups in your area do you need to hook up with? Are there reproductive justice groups? Are there groups that do doulas, that help with childbearing? Are there groups to help with funding for legal abortions? What groups in your area does your chapter need to align itself with, right? What are your chapter's plans to support local Black Lives Matter groups or anti-gun violence groups, right? Because everything that goes on in our community is our business. And we're talking about healing our communities. We can't sit at home and watch our streets being taken over by gun violence and think that I can only work on HIV. Right? Because if you work with Black Lives Matter will work with you. If you work with reproductive justice groups, they'll work with you. So we want you to to purposely form partnerships and collaborations, and then get, again, something that you get from everybody in the chapter. You'd be surprised at what the women know. You'd be surprised at the connection some of the women have in your own chapters. I'm saying this to the co-chairs. Everything doesn't have to come out of your head. All you have to do is facilitate conversation where you draw this information out of everybody in the chapter. And again, everybody pitches in. This is everybody's plan for 2017, not mine or just the co-chairs. The last section, because I said there's 4 parts, is communications. We can't do anything without having a communications plan. How many press releases will the chapter put out in 2017? Right? Have you already identified some dates or events that you may want to put a press release out for? Right? And if so, then list them. That way we can help you getting press releases together. Right? So that is what we're asking every region to do. Submit a 2017 plan. What are you going to do the rest of the year? 4 different sections. What are you going to do around communications? What do you guys plan to do around advocacy and policy? What do you guys plan to do for the infrastructure and sustainability of your chapter? What do you guys plan to do for partnerships and collaborations? 4 questions with some bullet points. And I think that if you all dedicate the remainder of 2016 meetings to completing this 2017 plan. So if you're going to make an agenda for next week's meeting, this is what it should look like. You'll do a check-in. You'll start working on your 2017 plan. Say the meeting's 90 minutes. You'll do a check-in for 15 minutes, make sure everybody's okay. You'll work on your plan for about 45 minutes. You'll make some announcements. Some people may have some resources they want to share. You process out. So if you're having, so right now it's the middle of November. I suspect folks will have at least 2 to 3 meetings before the end of the year. And so we're asking you all to dedicate the remainder of the year to working on what you want to. We know you're going to have end of year reports. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So we're going to shut down 2016. We're going to bring in 2017. And again, this needs to be a process that everybody's involved in, not just the co-chairs. So this is, and that's why we're asking everybody to come on this call, not just co-chairs, so everybody can see what PWN National is asking our regions to do. We're asking you to focus. Focus, ladies. We have a new presidential administration coming in. We need to be focused. We need to know not what we're going to do next week, but what we're going to do next month. We need to put it down on paper and commit to it. So this is what I'm hoping, and be the creator of your own reality. Whatever your reality is going to be, we're asking you to focus on that. I know we're giving you a lot of information, and if you want to come back on and do this again tomorrow with us at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, you're more than welcome. You're also, everybody here is going to get a PDF of this presentation. You'll also be able to go onto our website and click this presentation if you want to listen to Cammie and our voices again to go over this. You can, but you can also just be able to print it out. It'll be printable on our website. You'll all get a copy in your emails. And again, so this is what we're asking you all to do. Yeah. And then there's always one more thing, right? So, oh my God, what else do they want us to do? You gotta put your big girl panties on, because again, we have November the 18th. They're working towards being healthy chapters so we can make healthy. Awesome, great. So somebody's talking. We want you to work toward being healthy chapters, making healthy decisions, right, and being able to keep the focus on the work, right? So I think, Cammie, are you supposed to do this?
Yeah, I think so.
And the reason why I'm putting that in our faces there, because we know you all like seeing us, and let you know that we talk about things together, and Nana and I came up with that 2017 plan for you all, and we just want to ask you to do one more thing before the end of the year. And, yeah, Cammie, you can go ahead with that. Thank you.
Sure. So as if that weren't enough, of course, you know, it's so important to put these plans to paper, but it's also important to evaluate where we've been, both to celebrate your successes and hold on to that, but also, you know, how do we plan for the future without really like assessing what we've done and what still needs work. So another thing you'll get, and this will be your collective project for the end of the year, not any one person's responsibility. This should, you know, you should all think about this as a community building exercise, even to think about these things together. But you'll get this in, I believe, a Word document, and basically there's multiple columns here asking you to reflect on different things from 2016. So the first column says, how many times did the chapter meet in 2016? So just like the number of times you met, was it in person, was it over the phone, did you use some other technology, just documenting that. The second column asks, what is your regular meeting time and location? The third column asks, what events, including conferences, were organized by the chapter in 2016? So for anything that you organize, make sure you provide what it was, the date, and the number of attendees, because that helps give an idea of what the impact was. And then we ask, what speaking engagements does the chapter have in 2016? So, and include the name, the event, who spoke on behalf of the chapter. And so, even though maybe one person went and spoke, it's still a victory for the chapter that they're out there representing the group and getting your message out there. We also ask you to report on which trainings were provided by the chapter. So you could tell us the topics and the dates, what you trained on, and who you trained. We're also asking you to report how many women living with HIV did your chapter train in 2016, how many other people did your chapter train or educate. So both like within your chapter, how many people were trained, and out in the world, how many people did you all train. And this is over the course of the year. So you might have to go back, look at notes, look at, bring together people's different calendars to get a good, solid number. We also asked what new partnerships were formed in the chapter in 2016. Name any new organizational partners or collaborators you're working with. And that'll be really helpful for your 2017 planning as well, since that's something we asked you to think about, was your partnerships and collaborations. And then finally, this last column will ask, what media coverage did your chapter get in 2016? So list any articles, interviews, any blogs, press releases, anything you put out in 2016. And you can think about the things that both you might have done as a group with the support of PWN, but also like individual members on behalf of the chapter. Excuse me. And so it is, in order to get all this stuff done, both the end of the year report and the planning for 2017, we recommend, like Waheedah said, this should be the focus of all your meetings up until the end of the year. So, you can make it really simple, just have a conference line so that as many people can be involved as possible. You can assign a note taker. You can, as a group, decide who's going to be responsible for submitting the report. And that way, both, it'll get done, but also it doesn't have to be on one person. And so, yeah, that's the 2016 report. And I'll turn it back to Waheedah to give you guys more of the.
Thank you, Cammie. Yeah, thank you. So the end of year report is not anything new unless your chapter was just started this year. You've already given us first quarter report, second quarter report, third quarter report. So we do an end of year report, which is different. You're just not going to use the same template that you use the rest of the year. So we're asking you to go back and there's something you might have missed. And that's what the end of year report is for. And so we give you that template. So like I said, those of you who've been around for a while, you've seen this template already. Those of you who may have just started your chapter this year, this will be your first time doing that template. But we always do an end of year report. What's new is that now we're doing a 27-year planning. We're making a plan for 2017, for a yearly planning for 2017. We've never asked our chapters to do that. So what we just presented to you is something that you're going to get that template. So you're going to get that template again. This can be a part of the last meetings. You can do it over the phone. You can have a particular call where you're going to just do the end of year report. You can put them both on the same agenda. But for the next month and a half that we have left in the year, we want you to close the year out with your end of year report and open the year up with your plan for 2017. I'm hoping that that's making sense to you all. And so PWN is going to be closed from December, I should say 19th. That's wrong. December the 19th. We're not closed December the 9th. We're closed December the 19th until January 2nd. We'll be closed the last 2 weeks in December. So that's a typo. We have to fix that. So that's why we're asking you to turn the reports in before we actually close. So if you return your reports in that Thursday or Friday, December 15th or 16th, then we'll have time to look over them over the weekend. Then when Monday comes, PW is closed for the last couple of weeks. Right? You're closed. We're closed. Everybody's paperwork is in. It's a beautiful way to close the year and a beautiful way to begin the year because we already know what we're going to be doing when we hit the ground running in 2017. I hope that makes sense. I like to say keep calm, put your big girl panties on. Nobody's going to burst in the flames because you got to do a little bit of extra work. We're not going to ever do anything that makes you burst in the flames, right? And why bother with big girl panties when you can go commando? We can just get this done. We can commit to this. This is a way to build community. And that's one reason, let me say this, one thing that we've learned, the chapters who build community, who learn to trust each other, depend on each other, come over and help each other. Just because my specific role tells me to take notes, that doesn't mean I can't facilitate a meeting. You know what I'm saying? We have to learn how to cross-pollinate our responsibilities. Just because the co-chair has the responsibility of setting the meeting up, that doesn't mean the co-chair has to be the one to facilitate the meeting. All the co-chair has to do is calendar the meeting. If it's a conference call, they have to get the conference line. If it's a face-to-face call, they need to set up the venue. That doesn't mean they have to come and facilitate. We don't show up as an audience. We show up as worker bees, ready to chip in and ready to make our chapter be outstanding, because together we can be great. If we do this together, we can be great. So that's what we're looking for this year. And that's what our 2017 plan is going to be. It's going to be about us being great and about us working together and building community together. We just have a couple more slides for you. And this is something brand new, and this may not pertain to everybody. It may pertain to places like Dallas, places like Texas, or places like Philadelphia, because we're recommending the expansion to statewide chapters. If you are a chapter and you only represent a city within your state, we're telling you that if you that you can be stronger, stressing the movement of local chapters to go statewide. These are some of the reasons. You'll be casting a wider net to include women living with HIV in other parts of the state. We know statewide organizing has its challenges, but it also has its benefits, because you can support advocacy. You can support each other with your campaigns across the state. It won't just be a group of women in one place doing one thing, but there'll be some things you can all work on together. And also these chapters, they will be satellite chapters. They'll still be led by two co-chairs who have to sign on to the values. They just won't have to go through the whole process a lot of you all went through. If there's already a chapter already going in that state, then if their people want to do satellite chapters, they need to contact me. And then at some point, or if you're having state chapters, you all should plan on having at least 3 in-person meetings, maybe in different parts of the state, so women don't have to travel as far. But that's something that we all want you to, and that is for like Ohio is a statewide, Michigan statewide, Louisiana statewide, Georgia statewide, Colorado statewide, San Diego, Bay Area is not statewide. I think San Diego and California is not statewide. So this could be a model that they could look into this year. Texas is not statewide. We have Greater Houston area, but I'm hearing that there are people in San Antonio, there are women in Dallas, Texas. Go ahead and form your chapters. We've been telling you this already. Go ahead and form your chapters. They'll be called satellite chapters. And if Philadelphia does it, the only thing happens is that you'll go from being PW in Philly to PW in Philly, Pennsylvania. So that's what will happen. And if there's Lancaster, Pennsylvania, it'll be PW in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we're just encouraging you all that if you have just a regional, if you have a local chapter, that we're encouraging you to expand it for next year. And that, I think that makes sense as well. So this is the last slide, and I know it looks like a whole lot of stuff going on, but this is the visual for 2017. I gave you the visual for 2016 and where we wanted to go as far as having our webinar series and getting to the summit and having our campaigns hooked up, and we're halfway there. So in 2017, we're planning on campaigning to fix broken systems. We're going to get to the finish line in 2017. With any of these 6, this is our PWN platform: ending criminalization, achieving women-centered care, achieving economic justice, reproductive health and justice, ending violence against women living with HIV, gaining HIV prevention justice. We're going to provide you webinar trainings. Some chapters will get in-person trainings. We're going to give you practical tools to use. We need dedicated members. We need dedicated meetings, and that's going to give us dedicated winners. We need you to build community, expand to statewide chapters, and believe in the process. Time takes time. Nothing's going to happen overnight. And ladies, this doesn't have to be perfect. I need to say it again and again and again. Reaching for perfection is reaching for something that's not attainable. That's the expectation that can't be reached, right? So we just do the best that we can, knowing that our best may look different on different days. Right now I'm suffering with a cold. When I don't have a cold, I'd be a whole lot more, do a whole lot more. You know, when we have to take care of our parents who are ill, when we have other responsibilities, we know that our best is going to look different on different days. But we ask that you please make PWN a priority in your life this year. You stick and stay in your positions. Last year we had a lot of folks in and out positions. So what happens is that you run in place. When you have officers coming in, going out, you never move your plan along. You simply run in place because you have to keep going back to the drawing board. So we're asking people that, you know, to just stay in place and remember that there's no doubt that a small group of people, of citizens, can change the world. Indeed, that's the only thing that ever has. You don't have to have a chapter with 100 women in it to change the world. All you need is a dozen of women who are committed, who are dedicated. You know what I'm saying? And you need leaders who are going to lead by example, who are going to run if you can run if you can walk, run if you can, walk if you have to, crawl if you must, just never give up. So that is our plan for 2017. Everybody that's an officer now, we want to keep you an officer. Let us know how we can support you before you decide that PWN is something you need to take off your list. Because no one's coming to save women living with HIV. You know, so when you cross PWN off your list, you're crossing off over 300,000 women living with HIV in this country who need women like us. You know, all of us, some of us can lead from the front, some of us lead from behind. You can be a leader. Doesn't mean you have to be out front to be a leader. Support your chapter, support your co-chair, support your SCAT reps, support your policy reps. Come on to the other calls. Find out what's going on in the other work groups. Increase your capacity to lead. You never know when you may have to be a leader. Recently, PW in Philadelphia lost a leader, and that she passed away. The same thing happened last year in PW in South Carolina when Deirdre Malloy passed away. You know, it puts a hole, and it's a vacuum there. You know, so as we build our capacity, we're able to fill these vacuums. We're able to fill these spaces when these positions come open. You know, so that is, I believe that is the last slide. Yeah. But then you already knew everything we told you. I think you already sort of knew. You know, I want to give you all the credit I can. Sometimes we just need to just put it in buckets for you. So I'm really looking forward to working with you all for the rest of the year. I'm here for you. We're looking forward to working with you all in 2017. And now we'd like to see if you all have any questions you'd like to ask us. You can unmute yourselves. I believe it's star. I'm going to say *6 to unmute yourself. And or you can also put your question in the chat box. Cammie and I are happy to take any questions that you have. Questions, comments, ideas.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
Yeah, *6, you can unmute yourself.
So, hey, Waheedah, this is Teresa. I've been listening to that come on
Teresa.
my phone throughout about. Hi. So I did think I heard you said that this webinar will also up on our website for those who are not on the call. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. Yes, yeah. So a couple of things are going to happen. Everybody on this call is going to get a PDF of this webinar. There will also be a PDF up on the website, and this webinar has been recorded. So you'll have a link on the website where you can go back and watch this if you need to. So the answer is yes. And for those of you who are on this call, you have to be ambassadors and take this information back to your chapters, whether you're a co-chair, whether you're a senior member, whether you're a regular member. If you're on this call, that's why I wanted everybody on this call, regardless of what position that you hold, that you take this back and you say, hey, we have a charge. We've been given a charge, and we need to get busy, and this is what it is. So the answer to your question, the long answer is yes, Teresa.
Thank
we'll
you.
get PDF, and it will be up on the website.
Cool. Thank you.
I hear you. So, yeah, Antoinette, I will make sure you get a PDF right away because I see your general meeting is tomorrow. She's getting right on it right away. This is the energy that I'm talking about. So this is what we need to work on for the rest of the year. We need to close out 2016, make our yearly plan for 2017. This is a skill that will take you a long, long way. Being able to plan something out for a year. I remember a time I couldn't plan, so I didn't know what I was going to be doing in the next 15 minutes. You know, but,
Hey, why?
but here, yes.
I'm sorry. This is Andrea
Hello.
in San Antonio, Texas. Hi. Sorry, I came on a little. I heard everything. I heard about the website chapters, but as in being in San Antonio, would you recommend that I still write out a plan too for this, for what I perceive here in San Antonio?
Even if you are not in a chapter, making a work plan is not a bad idea. You know, your work plan may be for that satellite chapter that you may be working on. You know, if you have met a couple women in San Antonio, you guys may be thinking about starting a satellite chapter. You already have a mother chapter there. You have PW in Houston there already. You know?
Right.
So you may be thinking about starting a satellite chapter. You wouldn't have to be interviewed. You wouldn't have to go through a lot. You would it would be the two co-chairs that I would have to, talk with and have you all sign on, teach you the values, go over the values with you, and you all can, start to develop your plan. So the answer is absolutely yes. There are people here, from North Carolina. There's no chapter in North Carolina. That doesn't mean that you can't plan actions or you can't plan what you want to do on behalf of PWN for next year. So absolutely yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was
Andrea.
something that we should have just. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm going back on mute.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Did we get everybody's campaign right from the pre-institute? If we made any mistakes, let us know because we may have. So let us know. We're happy to continue to take more questions. So we have about another 15 minutes or so to take questions. And if there are no questions, we can let everybody go. But if there are questions, we want to make sure that we are addressing your questions.
So, Waheedah, this is Teresa again. So my next question is, we see satellite chapters. Could you explain that a little bit in more detail? When you talk about expanding to being not just local chapters to statewide?
Certainly, yeah. Yeah. So I'm just trying to say I'm multitasking. Trying to say this in a PDF so I can start sending it out to you all. Yeah. So I'm not saying that let me tell you what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that you should go out and go up into another area and say, hey, you guys need to start a chapter. What I'm saying is folks desire to have a chapter. Maybe they can't make it to all the meetings in Philadelphia. Pennsylvania is a big state.
Yes, it is.
Pennsylvania is a big state. Texas is a big state, right? States are huge. Everybody may not be able to make it to a meeting, but they may want to work on PWN platform. They may want to work on some stuff that you can put a small group together, 4 or 5 women, and form yourself a satellite chapter. If satellite chapters pop up in your state, then everybody's gonna make a commitment to everybody having face-to-face meetings about 3 times a year, right? So you become a statewide chapter. So PW in Philly would be PW in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Right now, it could be PW in Philly because there's no other chapter. But if the PW in Lancaster or PW in Harrisburg comes up or PW in Reading, right? Then we start to talk about Pennsylvania as opposed to Philadelphia. PW in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So they would still need 2 co-chairs. We always need 2 because you never know if one co-chair has to step away. something, it could be health, it could be anything. We've learned that. So it always has to be two. I don't want any chapter out here with one co-chair. It's not a sustainable model. If you have a chapter and you only have one co-chair, we are going to be helping you get somebody in place to have two co-chairs. It's not a sustainable model because that person's going to get burnt out. And when that person gets burnt out and walks away and drops the mic and leaves the room, then what happens? Then we scold from within. So we want to make sure that we're having at least two co-chairs. We want commitments for at least a year. You're making a yearly plan. We're hoping that you will commit to be a part of that plan for at least a year. So that's what we're looking for. And like I said, there's nothing that your chapter has to do. But if you know of women in the state of Pennsylvania who are thinking of who visit your chapter, or you may want to encourage them, hey, you can start your own little chapter if you want to now. We can have satellite chapters. PWN Philly would be the mother chapter of the group because you're the first chapter. You have the most experience. And so then what you would do, you would plan to meet up 3 times a year. And let me say one more thing while I'm on here. If any RFPs come up, if grants and stuff come up, let us know because PWN can help you all write your grant so that you can have a chapter that's funded, and nothing wrong with getting a little compensated for your time. Our time is valuable. We would love to be able to compensate all of our co-chairs, but right now we don't have any other way to compensate you other than support you. If you see a grant out there, let us know. Bring it to us. Let us know. If it's within our vision and our mission, we will do our best to help you write a good narrative to give you the best shot at it. Yeah. Ohio's working on criminalization. We are trying to change the language to focus on science and research because Ohio law is based on disclosure and intent, but not clear on what the intent is. So this is great. Thank you, Olga. Olga is saying that they're ready to work. They have a focus, and that's great. So again, it's not all what you know, Olga. It's you have an opportunity bringing all the women together, building community, and telling the women this is a we project. PWN has sent them. We have a message from National. National want us to talk and tell them what we're going to do next year. Not just what Naima and Olga are going to do, but what are we all going to do, right? Again, we don't want our co-chairs burnt out. We don't want you taking all of this on and thinking you have to change the world. That's why we have chapters. Women have signed up to be in these chapters. Give them an opportunity to contribute to the work of the chapter. Give them an opportunity to be a part of the plan. Any other questions? Any other comments? Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, I need to drink a lot of liquid. Thank you so much. I think you can hear it in my voice. Well, Cammie, I think that if no one has any more questions, we should probably start sending PDFs out to these women.
Yeah, I think so. All the questions we've had so far are really great, and I'm excited I'm just excited for 2017. Well, I'm excited.
Denise Smith wants to be a part of the policy procedures to see what other states are doing. Awesome. Cammie, when is your next policy call? Do you know?
Our next call is on November 30th, which is a Wednesday, and it's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern.
So Denise Smith is in South Carolina. Denise, that's Wednesday, November the 30th, 6 o'clock p.m. We'll make sure that you get an invitation to that call. If anybody wants, you don't have to be the policy rep to come onto the policy call. like Denise said, to see what's going on with other states. You know, we are a national membership body of women living with HIV. We need to know what's going on all around the country and not just what's going on in our own little backyard, because we could learn a lot from what's going on in other chapters. And the women are willing to they're willing to share the information. So again, all the information that you get doesn't have to come through me, doesn't have to come through Cammie. You could get it from each other, you know. You're certainly welcome. And thanks everybody for asking me to stay healthy. New York and Olga from Ohio, and yeah, great. So we're going to go ahead and end this call. I can send the PDFs out since I still have some time. I'll send you guys some PDFs right now, particularly Antonetta, because they're having their meeting tomorrow. Antonetta's going to get started tomorrow. And I will also make sure that you have templates tomorrow. So you have the PDF of the presentation, but I'll send you the actual templates tomorrow, so that if you want to start on doing your end of year report or your 2017 plan, you'll have both those templates. Shirley says, have a great evening, ladies, and take care of yourselves. Thank you for being on, Shirley. Thank you, Tammy. So we're going to say good night to everybody, and we're going to close the webinar. So everybody have a safe evening and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you for joining. Is someone
love you.
Good night, everyone.
Oh, good night, everybody.
Be well, Waheedah.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Take care, everybody. Cammie, thank you so much.
Thanks, Waheedah.